book a satisfying conclusion to a winning streak. The two most famous modern winning streaks in wrestling, Goldberg and The Undertaker, both ended with a pretty flat finish. Whilst Taker's streak didn't really need to end as it was on a yearly basis, eventually Goldberg would have eventually had to lose. So Jim, how do you successfully book a winning streak to end?
Well, it was two different instances with those two streaks ending. And actually, when you think about it, the Undertaker's streak, the way it ended should have been the way that Goldberg's streak ended, because Goldberg's streak should have ended, and not when it did, because as Bobby Heenan famously said, well, they've just killed a golden goose or wrecked the whole thing or whatever. But when it had to, because he was an active wrestler, it should have been with a young, upcoming heel that they had destined to be the guy, or one of the guys at least, wanted to be the guy, and they were sure that he wasn't going to be a flake, and that he was going to be with them for the long run, and he was tied up under contract, and you come up with the right way to do it, which I can't do off the top of my head here 20 years after the fact, but the right way that you believe it should be done, where it ends Goldberg's streak without ending his aura. He has an out, but at the same time, the other guy has heat because he did it. And if it's right, then you've got, and it didn't hurt Goldberg, and it brought an end to his streak that meant something for somebody else so you could continue your business. Or, you know, the guy with the most stroke in the fucking company that wants to keep his top spot and fucking not let anybody get past him can do it in a bullshit way. Yeah, there's that. With the Undertaker streak, I don't think the way it should have ended, because Brock didn't need it. He was still a part-time guy. As I've said, I believe that probably the Vince thought that was going to be Taker's last match and wanted to put all his eggs in Brock's basket. But Brock didn't need it, and nobody wanted to see Taker's come to an end, and I don't think it had to. And I don't think it should have. I think he should have ran out to, and whatever they're doing this weekend, that people will have seen by the time they hear this, whether he's having a match or whatever, he never needed to get beat at WrestleMania, and it didn't do really anything for business. So, yes, both those were, the way that they were done were rotten for different reasons. And they're the most famous streaks of all time. So apparently people are still waiting to see a streak end right, which I think is a combination of the two. He's got to have a guy that's still going to be a full-time fucking wrestler. His streak ended by somebody that then you've made a main event opponent for him for ages to come.
You had the Beat the Champ TV championship in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which, although different, was something where to keep the title, you had to have a streak going. But other than that, did you ever book a winning streak? A big one for someone?
Leviathan, but we didn't enumerate it. And the only kind of streak with the Beat the Champ thing was it was just the rules. Did we go 5 weeks or 6 weeks? God, I got to brush up on this stuff. But if you won the TV title, then you won a certain amount of money, like $1,000, and the opportunity to defend it the following week, and to win a match and win another $1,000. And if you won 5 weeks in a row, then you got a bonus $5,000. So it was believable. It's on fucking television, right? For Christ's sake. So you ought to be able to, over a month and a half, get fucking $10,000 out of something. And then if you won all 5, then you gave it up because, and 2 other guys wrestled for it because you had successfully done your time. And it was a way, if I wanted to push a fucking guy that was just coming in, like I wanted to do with Billy Black till he got scared off by the bad weather. You give him plenty of wins on TV, come in, let him win the TV title, and then beat 4 people in a row and retire with it. You don't have to beat them. Or you can fucking have a guy win 4 in a row and going for the 5 and that extra money, and somebody fucks them and they're hot. Or just, change it around depending on who it is. So that was that. With Leviathan in Ohio Valley Wrestling, it was just acknowledged that he had never been defeated because he wasn't human, and he could not be defeated, which is why when he got defeated, finally, however long it was, the first one was with Kane beat him after Stone Cold Steve Austin gave him a stunner in the middle of the Louisville Gardens. So for fuck's sake. And then he didn't do another job until John Cena, the prototype, beat him when he was headed up to the full-time roster. And even Cena put him out with ether. So that was a streak, but that was the whole idea. You couldn't. And you know what I'm saying? And Batista has borne this out. He was good for short runs without getting hurt. Then he'd be gone for a while. So he was such an attractive looking specimen, so visually impressive that people wanted him to be over and wanted to see him. He didn't stay long enough. He had a great athletic ability to do certain moves at his size that especially were incredible. He had a great spine buster and a pop-up thing and the spear and the whole 9 yards. He could do all that shit. And if you didn't see him year in and year out, which they never did because he was always getting hurt, then he was huge. But he was not the type of person that you could beat and do programs with and et cetera, over long periods of time and stay over, because he really still wasn't around long enough to get to be a great worker psychologically, which is why I put him in a fucking gimmick, because I figured if they got 5 years, they were lucky. And I think they got about 5 years, didn't they? But not all of it.
Maybe.
No, I mean, he was hurt in between. He leaves here in 2002, was it? And count, if somebody out there that's ambitious, count up the amount of time that Dave Batista actually spent in the wrestling business after leaving OVW before not doing it anymore.
All right, someone do that, and
because I'm just saying total amount of time, not with injuries. You take the injury time out, but when I saw him at the start, I said, this is a gimmick for Undertaker, Kane, and Big Show. He's old, he's not a natural, and he's injury prone, but he can be a huge star that you can steal pay-per-views with for about 5 years. So let's see how close I was to the actual time of his wrestling career, if anybody wants to do that math.